How's it going, my friend? It's Danny here from projectmanaverse.com, real world technical project management for beginners. And today I'm going to share with you some common project manager traps. I'll explain why you should care about these traps, what they are, and then a little bit about how to avoid them. So let's jump into the video. What do I mean by a project manager trap? Well, basically I'm talking about very common mistakes that project managers will make on a project. And I've called them traps because these are so common that they occur on every project, regardless of what the project is about. Every project is unique by definition, but these mistakes are so common that they occur. I see them occurring on pretty much every project. So you should care about these because I'm giving you gold here. You can, with this knowledge, you can prepare for it, you can make sure it doesn't happen to you. And if you avoid these traps, you will definitely increase your chances of a successful project, and you'll de-risk your project overall, and you'll overall be a better and more effective project management. So it pays to listen up on this one. So what are the common project manager traps? Well, number one is letting your governance and your housekeeping slacken over the course of the project. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, governance is basically the process that you need to go through, the policy, the company rules, the company mandates, all the processes you need to go through to make sure you're doing things correctly and you're following the rules of whatever project management methodology your company has adopted. So it's making sure things like design documents are signed off correctly, that you've got the right decision makers for important decisions and those decisions are getting captured in the right place. You've got a steering group in place for those senior leaders that influence the project. You're following the right deployment methods for when you go live, or if you want to deploy code into your test environments or change things. It's all those regulations and rules you have to follow. Red tape is essentially what I'm talking about here. You hear that expression, red tape. This is pretty much governance. So it can be a real pain, but it's there for a purpose, and it is there for a control, and that control is to ensure that your project is delivered safely and you're not wasting money, and it doesn't go completely tits up. Basically, that's what the governance is there for. So although it can be a pain and sometimes it can be overdone, especially in big companies, there is a purpose to it. And sometimes you can be tempted to cut corners on governance. Sometimes you have to, or sometimes it's not so strict to follow it, that it's not essential that you do, but those guidelines are there for a reason. And if you're up against it, you can be tempted to circumnavigate those guidelines, we should say. And sometimes you have to do that, but as a rule, you should try and stick to the governance that has been put in place. But the common trap I see is that project managers are so busy and the project gets so crazy, you start to be a bit slack with the governance, even things that are in your control or processes that you can follow. And that's more what I mean around housekeeping. So things like just keeping your documents in one place, making sure the versioning control is correct on them, making sure that if your requirements change or you have CRs or change requests, you're going back to your requirements and updating the document to reflect those changes, making sure you've got traceability from end to end across all your documents, making sure that if you're making deployments in several environments, test environments, you're making sure all those environments are aligned so you don't have those environments out of sync. All these things can happen over time when you stop concentrating and you get distracted and you're not disciplined. So that's what I mean by letting your governance and your housekeeping slacken. Now, the problem with doing that is it adds risk to your project. So if you stop following the governance, as I mentioned, that's there for a reason. It's there as a control. So if you start to avoid that governance, then you are putting your project at risk, which you don't really want. And if you slacken up with the housekeeping, then again, you're at risk of things going wrong down the end of the line. You're at risk of things being missed, things not being built correctly, deployments being done incorrectly in the production environment because your environments weren't kept aligned in the lower environments, things like that can all start to go wrong. So it really pays to avoid that trap. So that's common mistake number one. So try to be disciplined, get that in place, get support from your team if you can't do it all yourself, and just try to avoid that trap. Trap number two is starting to neglect your bread and butter project management duties. And again, it all comes down to there being a lack of time, and the project is urgent, and you've got things going on, and you're getting pulled left, right, and centre in different directions. And because of that, you can be vulnerable to doing things that you're not supposed to, well, you kind of have to do, but you shouldn't really be doing them as your first priority. You are a project manager, so you need to make sure you're doing the bread and butter things and you're not neglecting your project management duties. So basic things like keeping your project plan up to date, making sure you're updating it every couple of days so it's reflecting the latest picture and the latest status of the project. Things like updating your risk and issues log. Things like chasing up actions that have been out there for a while. Things like writing up meeting minutes. Those kind of essential project management, housekeeping, not even housekeeping duties, just your bread and butter duties you should be doing. You can be tempted to put those to one side because you've got urgent meetings to attend or whatever, or you're just doing things that you shouldn't really be doing as a project manager. You're getting too in the detail and potentially taking on too much yourself. That is a very, very, very common trap. I see it on, I'd even go far to say I see it on most projects with most project managers. So maybe that's a bold statement, but you really want to be, again, it comes back to discipline. Be disciplined. Don't let that happen. Prioritize, carve out some time in the day to do those essential duties. And they don't even take that long, to be honest. Things like updating your project plan and chasing up actions. If you get into a good routine and a good system where you've got like a bit of a schedule going on and a tick list to make sure you've done your duties every day, you're ticking them off. Yeah, I've done them. I can relax a bit. I know no matter what else happens, I've done my duties as a project manager. I've stayed on top of it. I've kept that control in place, because you are, as a project manager, a control for the project, and doing these duties as part of that control. That's why you're there. That's why we have a project manager role in the first place. So don't let those things slip. That's common mistake number 2. Common mistake number 3 is attending too many meetings, or more specifically, attending meetings that you don't necessarily need to go to. Now, as a project manager, you will spend the majority of your time in meetings because you have to do that to communicate with your resources and communicate with your stakeholders. That's how you operate as a project manager, because most of the work has been done by other people. So your job is to make sure that work is being done by speaking to those people and then managing the impact of the stakeholders or managing their expectations. So a lot of communication, which requires a lot of meetings, but you can be smart with those meetings. You can batch them up to get all the necessary people onto one call. You can do various things, but your diary will fill up, especially if it's a bigger project. And not only will it fill up, you'll have double bookings, triple bookings. So you have an hour, you've got choice of 3 meetings to go to. And you do need that time, as I mentioned earlier, for your essential bread and butter, your core duties as a project manager. So the common trap I'm talking about is project managers will just think they have to attend every meeting that goes into their diary, but you do not. You have the power to say no to these meetings. And there's various ways you can get out of it. Number 1, first thing you need to do is to think, right, do I really need to be in this meeting? Can I add value to it? Yes or no? Or do I need to hear the information? If you can't add value to it, that's a good sign that you don't need to go. If you need to hear the information, can you get it in a summary version, or can you send a delegate? Or can you just send a delegate to represent you and represent some of your thoughts? That's a very good way of doing it. But you need to be firm and push back on some meetings. And it's not the end of it. Feels sometimes like every meeting is really important and urgent, but often if you miss it, it's not really going to change anything, to be honest. You'll figure out a way to get around that and get up to speed with what happened. Send someone, get them to write you a couple of bullet point summary if it was important. So that's the next trap, is going to too many meetings. So you need to be firm with that and just go to the essential ones. And a good habit to get into is, when you look at your diary every day or the day before, if you've got a complete back-to-back day of meetings, just make it a point to move some of them if they are your own meetings, or decline some of them, or propose a different time to some of them. Just make sure you're carving out 1 or 2 hours just for you, so you can concentrate on those core PM tasks. Okay, so that's common trap number 3. Common trap number 4. Shall I go into any more? Yeah, I'll go into one more, and then then we'll wrap up. So common mistake number 4 is getting so caught up in the urgency and the problems of the project that you forget to reflect and think about what has gone well and say thank you to your team and give encouragement and congratulations and have a bit of a well done to everyone, because everything's always urgent and it's tempting and easy to fall into the trap of just always looking at right today we've got to get this done, today we've got this deadline coming up, we've got to focus on that. And you do need to do that, but at the same time you also need to think about what has been achieved, what has your team achieved. You've probably done a lot of good stuff the previous week. Just call out a few of those things, say well done to a few people, take some people aside and say, look, I just really appreciate what you're doing on this, you're smashing it, you're working extra hours, I appreciate it, and we're going to do well together. But just make sure you're not just forgetting about the good stuff and focusing on the bad and the urgent stuff. Make sure you're taking time to celebrate success and say well done and thank you to your team and give them some encouragement. So that's the other one. So I've got a few more, but I think I'll wrap up there. What I will say, I want to summarize and talk about a concept which a lot of what I have talked about falls into this concept, and that is, as a project manager, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, I think one of your core responsibilities is to bring order from chaos, because projects are chaotic and they need order, they need clarity, and that's one of your roles as a project manager. You won't hear that in a manual or a PM training. This is from my experience, and it's true. I think you need to bring order from chaos. That's one of your core responsibilities if you wonder what a project manager does, and bring clarity from the nebulous fog, if you will. If you can do that, you're well on the way to becoming a good, strong project manager. Be disciplined with it. And it's basically the fight against entropy. If you've heard the word entropy, it can be summarized as the universe's natural tendency to fall towards chaos. And that happens with everything. If you neglect it, it will start to deteriorate. It will start to get chaotic. If you neglect your house or your bedroom, it will get messy, right? You always have to put in effort and energy and force to maintain the order and fight that chaos. And that's what you're doing as a project manager. And that battle or that war never ends. It will always be there. You have to fight every day. You have to put in the effort every day, and you have to be disciplined and push back that chaos and implement your own order to the project. And that's what it comes down to. If you can be disciplined with that, these common traps you can essentially avoid. So you need to be aware of yourself. You need to be self-aware. Reflect. Are you falling into these traps? Yes or no? And if you are, then you need to get your shit together basically and be disciplined and bring that order back to the project. And if you can know that from the start of the project and be conscious of it, you can start to put these systems in place. As I say, a very simple thing to do is think, right, what are those 2 rules I said earlier, right? What are your core PM duties? Get a tick list, make sure you're doing them every day, tick them off. And you can very clearly easily see if you're doing them or not, or if you're falling into that trap. And just have a look at your meetings and just assess, right, did I go to all these meetings? Did I need to? Or do that trick where I said, right, look at your next day and then think, right, which ones can I move? Which ones can I cancel? Which ones can I delegate to send someone else? And make sure you're carving out that time for yourself. Right, I've gone over time there and I need to shoot. So I'm going to say goodbye. If you like the video, hit thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. I'm doing daily videos, so just tune in for more like this. Okay, until tomorrow, please take care.